Testing.
One does.
Hi, Mike. How you going?
Good evening, elected members, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention, please? As the City of Joondalup values the health and safety of its visitors, I wish to announce the emergency procedures for this facility prior to this evening's meeting. The City of Joondalup emergency system has 2 alarm tones, an alert tone and an evacuation tone. On hearing the first alert tone, please do not evacuate the facility and remain where you are. The city's designated fire wardens will respond and assess the immediate area for danger. Everyone in attendance is to follow instructions from the designated fire wardens. On hearing the second evacuation tone, please evacuate the building immediately, as directed by a fire warden or via the nearest safe exit located behind you or to the right of the chamber. Do not use the lifts. Remain calm and proceed to the designated assembly area on the grass area in front of the library or as directed by a fire warden. Any person with impaired mobility who cannot use the stairs unaided should advise a fire warden who will arrange for their safe evacuation. Do not re-enter the building until authorised to do so by emergency services. Members of the public are respectfully asked to not stand in the passageways or doorways of the chamber and to use the allocated seating in the chamber lobby. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I declare this briefing session open at 6:30 p.m. The procedures of the briefing session are electronically recorded in accordance with the council's recording and live streaming of council meetings council policy, except for matters of a confidential nature. The guide in determining those matters of a confidential nature shall be in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Please note, briefing sessions are audio recorded and audio live streamed only in accordance with the council's policy. Recordings will also be made available on the city's website following the meeting. Members of the public gallery are reminded it is a requirement under the Meeting Procedures Local Law to act in a courteous and respectful manner when in the council chamber. You are asked to show proper respect to anyone who is exercising their right to ask questions of the council and/or deliver public statements. I ask that respect extend to such people whenever they are on city premises while waiting for or having taken their opportunity to ask questions or deliver public statements. Additionally, under the local law, a person must not create a disturbance by interrupting or interfering with the orderly conduct of these proceedings. This includes expressing approval or dissent by conversing or by any other means. Using personal electronic recording devices to record anyone or the meeting is also prohibited under the city's local law. I'd also like to remind members of the public to show proper respect to the city's elected members and staff during these proceedings. The next item of business is declarations of interest. I've received a number of declarations in advance for tonight, so I'll work through those, then I'll ask for any from the floor. The first one is from Councillor Gould. It's an interest that may affect impartiality. It's for item 12.9, appointment of independent persons. One of the applicants is known to her. And Councillor Gould, I'll also ask you to disclose who that person is if we deal with it in a confidential session. Thank you. Further declaration from Councillor Gould for item 12.2. That is in relation to the small bar application at O'Mara Boulevard, Aluka. It's an interest that may affect impartiality. Of residents of the Aluka 1 apartments are known to her. A further declaration from Councillor Vinciulo. It's an interest that may affect impartiality for item 12.13. That's in relation to the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club redevelopment. It's an interest that may affect impartiality, as Councillor Vinciulo is a vice patron of the club. A further declaration of interest from Councillor Fishwick. It's an interest that may affect impartiality, also for item 1213, Sorrento Surf Life Club redevelopment. It's an interest that may affect impartiality, as Councillor Fishwick is both a vice patron of Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club and a senior assessor for Surf Life Saving WA. I've received also an interest that may affect impartiality from Director Humphrey. It is for item 1213 for the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club. It's that members of the club are known to the director. Councillors, are there any further interests that need to be declared for tonight's meeting? Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an interest that may affect impartiality for item 12.2, as I'm a sitting panel member of the DAP. So I'll fill
Sorry,
the
could you
paperwork
repeat that and talk into the microphone if that's all right?
in. Sorry, there we go. Just for item 12.2, that I'm a sitting member of the MODAP panel.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further interests? Yes. Councillor Count.
Yes, thank you. A couple of the members of 12.3, the Surf Club, are known to me.
12.13? Yep.
Sorry, 12.13, correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further interests? Thank you. And then just one for myself. It's an interest that may affect impartiality. It's for item 1213, the Sorrento Life Saving Redevelopment Project. It's that I'm a vice patron of the of Surf Life Saving WA, but not a patron of the individual clubs. In that case, we then move to deputations. There is a set of rules relating to deputations. Firstly, the deputation request must be made in writing and addressed to the Mayor, that there is a period of time allocated of 15 minutes set aside for each deputation. Deputation shall not exceed five persons in number, and only 3 of those persons may be at liberty to address elected members and to respond to any questions from the council. So there's been one deputation applied for tonight, which is from Ms. Michelle Kwok. And if you'd like to come forward and begin your deputation when you're ready, you've got 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Before us tonight is the Sorrento Surf Club Surf Life Saving Club redevelopment project. The Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club was formed in 1958. First club room was constructed in 1960, south of the present club rooms. With the expanding membership, an extension to the club room was built in 1978. The club room was further expanded and renovated in 93, and the courtyard was added to the northern end of the building in 95. The boat shed was an extension done in 2007. In 2016, the city and the state government installed a beach enclosure at Sorrento's beach. An additional 75 car parking bays added to the site. The beach enclosure has since been removed. The club has increased its membership by 30% from 1,700 members to 2,200 members over the last 7 years. An upgrade is overdue. Next, please. The slide shows the 2 developments that have been approved by the state government. The Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club lies between the 2 on the beachfront in a prime spot. Building upwards seems to be the trend along the coast for the state government, despite concerns from the city itself for the 2 projects. So next, please. This is the project development timeline. Council was presented with option 1, 2, and 3 in June 2022. Option 1 was chosen. In June 2023, Council was presented with 3 amended concept designs option A, B, and C, keeping within the budget of $14 million as far as possible. Next, please. This shows original cost of option 1, 2, and 3, and option A, B, and C. These figures were 7 months old when the report was published. The club favors B and C. They prefer the commercial component as a separate building. Next, please. Back to the same one. In November 2023, the design option 1.1 was approved by Council. The improved design has additional amenity, improved functionality, and to meet the club's current and future requirements. The city has a requirement to engage an appropriately qualified and experienced architectural consultant for this project. 11 entities bid for tender, and Hodge Collard Preston architects won the tender. Also mentioned was community consultation. However, council settled with stakeholders' engagement as opposed to community consultation. Next, please. The amendment for community consultation was moved by the then Councillor Kingston, but it was lost. In January 2024, the city sent letters to owners and residents within a 500-meter radius of Sorrento Beach, emailed key stakeholders, installed signs on site, and advertised the project through city's website, social media, and local newspaper. The Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club also promoted the concept plans to their members. Limited feedback was received from 7 local residents and community groups. There were concerns raised by 4 residents, that's majority of the 7 respondents, about the design of the Northern Public Amenities Building or rationale for the commercial space. The Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club received positive feedback from their members on the concept plan. Next, please. In June 2025, Council approved adjustment of the budget for the project to $17.8 million. Last month, there was a further adjustment, adding $1.5 million Lottery West grant, raising the budget to $19.3 million. This one was not stated on the project development timeline. I have also noticed 2 other meetings prior to June 2022 that have not been included. I would like to talk about those. Before I do so, let's remind everyone the immediate hurdle of this project. Next, please. This table shows the estimated project cost to be $30.4 million, 90% of that being the construction cost. This more or less emerged after the detailed design was prepared by the architect who could then reflect more accurately on the material costs, and that has been rising out of control ever since. The City of Joondalup ratepayers' share is around $9.4 million contributed, and $8 million from the state government, $1 million from the club itself, and $1.5 million from Lottery West grant. We are facing a $10.5 million shortfall. Next, please. So stage 1, 2, and 3 cannot and will not happen when we have a $10.5 million shortfall. Personally, I don't believe we have explored all the possible solutions. Let's go back to July 2019 council meeting minutes. Next slide, please. The report gave us some background of the club. It lists in details with explanation the few problems it has with access to the bin storage area, sand drifts, flooding, stormwater drainage, drain blockages, sewage, grease trap, and insufficient ventilation in the showers. I highlighted a couple of points that worth mentioning. Fundings for the 2007 refurbishment came from the then Wanneroo Road Boards, which became the Shire, and finally the City of Wanneroo, before part of it became City of Joondalup. In those days, everyone just wanted to contribute to get things done. Members providing free labor and supervision during construction. Why can't they do the same now? If they have the expertise in the area and are willing to do so. Secondly, prior to July 2019, the club has commenced a review of the club rooms and presented a business case with several designs to the city, with varying costs ranging from refurbishment of the existing facility at approximately $4 million to a complete redevelopment of the facility and external commercial operation at approximately $12 million. The club is open-minded about these options. It appears to be the city, not the club, that went for the grand design. Next, please. This was council decision to make progress. Most of the elected members, apart from 3, are no longer on council. Next, please. Now we go back to April 2021 council meeting. The report listed 3 options. Please forget all the previous options. We will be focusing on these 3. Option 1, redevelop demolished existing facility and toilet block to the north and rebuild a new club room facility for $8.85 million. Option 2, refurbish partial demolition and extension of existing facility at a cost of $5.2 million. Option 3, do nothing, continue with the existing building and public facility. Next slide, please. Officer's recommendation was for the CEO to prepare a detailed business case evaluating both options, 1 and 2, as detailed within report CJ050 in April 2021 for the redevelopment or refurbishment of the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club, with the business case to include the following, as shown on the slide. The point of keeping the options open always makes sense. Mayor Jacob moved an alternate motion to close the door on option 2, and council was left with option 1. During the council meeting, a couple of councillors questioned about keeping all the options open. Councillor Tom McLean, the then North Ward councillor, made an important statement. He said, it's vitally important that we stick to the budget for a project of this size. He has seen other projects as an accountant elsewhere gone dramatically over budget, and we got to be very careful. That's his word. We would hate to see the council being asked to fork over many hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's overrun. He appreciated that there would be a contingency plan. It's very important to stick to budget, he stressed. What I can see is that the accelerating growth of this $30 million project is becoming unmanageable. It's unfair to ask ratepayers to fund any more than we have done, unless state government or other organizations want to fully cover this, it won't be viable. Also very important to allocate surplus, because say if we downsize to a $20 million project, by the time it's completed, it could be costing $25 million. We still will be stuck with a shortfall. Next slide, please. These are just common sense approach. In order to make meaningful progress, we need to revisit the scope, find alternatives, cut costs, and boost efficiencies. As the reality is that we're not going anywhere with this at this stage, we can address that by revisiting option 2, refurbish the existing facility. All the previous problems listed, drainage, flooding, sand drift, grease traps, ventilation, can be solved through refurbishment. Refurbished measures appear to be the most viable option for dealing with existing buildings over the life cycle. It's sustainable, economical, also it will reduce carbon and environmental footprints. Next, please. Site plan and floor plans for option 2 to refurbish have already been prepared by Hodge Collard Preston back in October 2020. It's all in attachment 5 of the April 2021 report. It proposes a refurbishment and partial demolition extension facility on current site by reconfiguring main entry and main areas, including a merchandise store, relocate the gym, training room, and increase its size, and significant reconfiguration of the male and female change rooms, new amenities to the south, additional storage, commercial facility to be located on the first floor, separate from club operations. Next, please. This is the artist impression of option 2. It should be viable to provide space for the club on the top level if needed. The commercial component has a different entrance, so it's separate from the rest of the clubhouse, not dissimilar to the swell sharing the building with Malaloo Surf Life Saving. The club is located in a prime spot, and the commercial space can help generate revenue to reduce our rates, as the city has invested a lot of revenue into this project. The city values the contribution and services provided by the club to the community. The club is part of the community. Ratepayers should have the opportunity to share and enjoy the amenity funded by their tax and rates. Next, please, the last one. Albany Surf Club has renovated the building. Total cost was $4 million. This includes a dedicated first aid room, patrol briefing area, and lookout, alongside an ocean view training room. Note, more than half of the funding came from the state government. I firmly believe in order to progress Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club redevelopment project, we need to explore the option that was locked away that can address the club's needs adequately, as well as a responsible way to utilize city's resource. We must downsize this project to make it financially viable, ensure a budget that can cover potential rise in material cost during its construction phase, and most importantly, please make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kwok, for your deputation. Do any council members have questions for our presenter tonight? I just have one for Ms. Kwok. Am I to understand from your presentation, you're looking that maybe the council should preference or consider an option very similar to what was in April 2021, so it was the $8.85 million option?
Yes, that was the option was opened by to council, but there was the alternate motion to close that option, so that was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as part of your deputation, you were suggesting as well the council should look at refurbishment options as well. Is that correct? Because I know you highlighted that.
That was the same option that I'm
Yeah, because that one was dropped.
That was the one that was dropped, yeah, option 2.
That's right. Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Kwok, for your presentation tonight on the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club. Thank you. That then brings us to public question time. There is a set of procedures relating to public question time, and I'll request that everyone follows my direction at all times. You'll have an opportunity to ask 2 questions, and your questions should be directed to myself as chair and be asked in a polite and respectful manner. Questions asked at a briefing session must relate to a report listed on the briefing session agenda. So we keep a register of those people wishing to ask questions. The first person on our list, unfortunately, was going to ask a question that did not relate to a report on tonight's council meeting, so I've asked them to come back at the, that relates to a report on tonight's briefing session. I've asked them to come back at the council meeting, and I'll probably preference those at the start of the meeting. Similar to the statement, there was a statement on the same item as well that didn't relate to a report. In that case, we then move to the second person on our list, which is Mr. Sideris, on item 12.10 and 12.13. If you'd like to come forward and ask your questions.
Yeah, Mitch Sideris, Page Drive, Maloo. Thank you for the opportunity. Of whether it was 12.10 or 12.13 was regarding the answers to questions. I submitted 5 questions to the council, and I refer to the answer. I think it's answer to question 4, dealing with seeking funding from, I said, state government for preparing a char map. The answer indicates that there was a federal application done to NEMA for the funding. I think it's excellent. Can I be given more details, including a copy of the application, the costing sort?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Sideris. We'll go to the Director for Governance, Director Parry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the question. And yes, whatever I have available, I will provide a response to you.
That will probably include a copy of the Smarty Grants application that would go through DFS, I assume.
Is that, I'll have to ask you, is that your second question, Mr. Sideris? Yeah.
Just clarification of the first question.
I think we'll take that as rhetorical. The Director has said he'll provide you all the information he can.
Thank you.
So on to your second question.
Yeah, second question refers to the answers given to question 5. And I note that the answer specifically focuses on the attached report provided by Newcastle University and the private consultant. However, the question was more broad. It was dealing with the public reference team and whether the public reference team had freedom to seek further information, etc., etc. Not specifically just this report. It was a broader question. Can I resubmit that question?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Sideris. Director Parry, would you like to enlarge on the response?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy for Mr. Sideris to expand upon his particular question. The technical steering group was involved in the review and the feedback incorporated into the final report, which is detailed within the response to the question due to the expertise of members on the steering group. With regard to the community reference group, given that it's made up of members from within the community, they were kept informed regarding the development of the report and provided with an overview of the research outcomes and provided some input in relation to what it was considered from the community's perspective were the advantages and disadvantages.
Probably not the question. Read the question again. It is resubmitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sideris. If you send the question by email, we'll try and get a response. The next person on our list is Mr. Mike Moore on the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club.
Mike Moore, 31 Quarry Ramble in Edgewater. Okay. Sorry, I've been through all the costings on the surf club for the various options, starting from 2022. We've ended up with a position where the option that the council went with in 2023. The pre-tender estimate came in 48% higher than that figure. The tender came in 85% higher than that figure. And working backwards, you can see there was already a $5 million hole in the budget when it went out to tender. So my question is, who made the decision to go out to tender knowing that there was a $5 million hole? Was it the administration or was it the elected members?
Thank you for your question. We'll go to the Acting CEO, Mr. Carson.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The pre-tender estimate, as you've indicated, was slightly above the available funding. At the time, it was deemed still appropriate by the administration, not the council, to went out to tender to see what the market is going to bring back. Unfortunately, that was much higher than what the pre-tender estimate was at the time.
Okay, during the process of developing and documenting the project, I assume you had cost control measures in place, which surely must have raised red flags as to the fact that it was running over budget and that it was likely to not end up being affordable by the city. You're saying slightly over budget. 48% is not slightly over budget. That's a long way over budget. And 98% is almost double. Well, it is double.
Thank you.
So I think you need to explain how that is just minor, because it's not.
Go to the Acting CEO.
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor, I must probably ask the manager asset management exactly what the pre-tender estimate was. I think that was $20.8 million from memory, and the overall funding availability with the Lottery West funding was $19.8 million, including that. So if I say a minor, there was a minor increase, which we thought we will be able to adjust via value engineering. Hence, we believe that the market will potentially provide, based on that pre-tender estimate, an appropriate response. I just asked the manager asset management who's got something to add.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. The pre-tender estimate from December 2025 was just under $21 million. That was when we went to market then in February 2026. That, as the acting CEO has mentioned, we had just under $20 million of funding allocation to the project, so we were in the ballpark, and that's why we were going out to market at that time. And obviously during this period of construction where we've seen cost escalations that weren't expected during the issues during the Middle East and supply chain concerns. That's escalated the costs, and we have at the earliest possible time and now taking this back to council for their decision.
Okay, thank you for the answers.
Thank you,
I will
Mr. Moore,
point
for your
out, though,
questions.
that in the report it says the pre-tender estimate was
Thank you.
$22 million.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We then, that concludes the people on our public register of those who wish to ask questions. Is there anybody from the gallery who wishes to ask a public question on any of the reports on tonight's agenda? In that case, I declare public question time closed. We then move to public statement time. The same as public question time, there's a set of procedures relating to public question time, and I request that you follow my direction at all times. You're able to make a statement for up to 2 minutes, and your statement should be directed to myself as chair and be polite and respectful. No questions or discussion will occur at the end of the statement. Statements made in the briefing session must relate to a report listed on the briefing session agenda. Again, we keep a register. Similar to public questions, there were 2 people who were looking to make statements on the notice of motions, but that's not a report on the briefing session agenda, so I've asked them to come to the council meeting and make those statements at that time. We then move to the second person who's on our list, which is Mr. Sideris, on item 1210 and 1213.
Yeah, Mitch Sideris, Mullaloo. Thank you. And I'll stay with item 1210. And as indicated in a number of the questions, I've been involved in char maps being presented to this council for at least 10 years plus. It goes back to about 2014, 2016. I've read them, understood them, and questioned various aspects of them, be it that related to the Ocean Reef Marina, Hillary's Beach Club or Pinaroo Point, and the other one at Sorrento. And I can't think, there is a fourth one. With this one, and with due respect to the officers and the response, I did read the attachment. I read the report and I read the attachment, and I've treated that as a report prepared by, I think it's Newcastle University and a set of consultants. What I found very disappointing is that there's no, as I indicate in the question, there's no cited references. I don't mean the appendices at the bottom. I mean various quotes and references and statements made or implications made in the report. It lacks that detail. The other bit that the report lacks, it doesn't have a report number. It's an attachment, which means, and there's no ISBN, which means it can't be referenced, can't be quoted, can't be researched, and effectively, I'm not sure how much money you paid for it, but it's not worth the paper it's written on. When you read the detail and the outcome, it doesn't do anything. It misses out on some key factors or considerations. It doesn't deal with current flows and the various... we've got enough problems with complaints about the quality of the water at Joondalup Beach, and yet this thing just ignores any of that reference, any comments. We talk about being seawalls or soft walls or vegetation and stuff like that, but none of those details are, all of those details are affected by current flows.
Thank you, Mr. Sideris. Your 2 minutes has expired. Thank you. We then move to the next person on our list, which is Mr. Mike Moore, if you'd like to come forward.
The Surf Club is an important building for the city. It's a landmark site. It needs to be a building that is worthy of a landmark site. But it also needs to be a durable building. The suggestion that you could refurbish the existing club room is arrant nonsense. You need a building that is built for a harsh and salt environment, and that can only be done with a new building. You can argue that whether the size is appropriate or not, but given that those decisions were made sort of 4 or 5 years back now, it seems ludicrous that we're sort of debating that sort of issue today. If you knew that there wasn't going to be the money for this project, and you went ahead and didn't allocate any more money for it in the budget, then why did it go out to tender? It should not have gone out to tender. All you've done is waste a heap of people's money. Second thing is you've got the cost issue, but you haven't said what the cost of terminating this project is or the alternatives that you've offered. They are going to cost the city more money. Building costs are going to continue to go up. If the building has to be redesigned, redocumented, retendered, you're going to chew up another couple of $1 million. How is that good decision making? It's not. You need to find the money and do the building and honour the decision that you made 4 years back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there anybody from the public gallery who wishes to make a statement on any of the items tonight? No? Thank you. In that case, we then move to apologies and leaves of absence. So we have currently on a leave of absence both Councillor May and Councillor Pizzey. Do any councillors wish to apply for a leave of absence at the following council meeting this month? Thank you. Councillor Hutton.
Yeah, thank you. From the 10th of August to the 1st of September.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anybody else wish to? Thank you. In that case, that'll be dealt with at the council meeting later this month on the 20th of July. Confirmation of minutes will also be dealt with at that meeting, as will announcements by the presiding member without discussion. That then brings us for item 10, identification of matters for which the meeting may be closed to the public. The following items may be dealt with behind closed doors if there's any questions on those items. So there's one confidential report, which is item 12.4, the status of legal actions, 2 reports with confidential attachments, which is item 12.9, 12.9.2, appointment of independent persons, and item 12.13.1, the Surrender Surf Life Saving Club redevelopment project, if people wish to discuss the confidential attachment documents. So do any elected members wish to discuss either the confidential report at item 12.4 or the confidential attachments at the other 2 items? Thank you. Councillor Chester?
Yes, I do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
On which one?
12.4.
12.4? Thank you. We'll deal with that item behind closed doors. We'll deal with the other items in the public as far as we are able to then. We then move to item 11, which is petitions. The city's received 3 petitions which have been included in the agenda, and they are as follows. The first one is a petition requesting council to protect the lawn and footpath along Maryvale Way in front of the Greenwood Primary School. It has received 39 signatures. The second petition is requesting the council to reinstate the 7 p.m. closing time at Duncraig, Whitford and Woodvale Public Libraries. It has received 872 signatures. It's probably worth noting that that item has already been dealt with by the CEO, who has decided not to go ahead with the changes to the closing hours. The third petition is requesting council to cease ongoing use of glyphosate and fluozapop in public spaces across the city of Joondalup. It has received 484 signatures. Are there any other further petitions to be presented to this month's council meeting? No? Thank you. Those will all be dealt with at the council meeting. We then move to the report section of tonight's agenda. We will have presentations on 2 items, which is item 12.10 and item 12.13. We'll start with item 12.10, so we just do them in order, and then after that we'll move to item 12.13, and then we'll work sequentially through the agenda as usual. So item 12.10, Director Parry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and Councillors, the purpose of this report is to present the research outcomes which were agreed to be developed by the Council on the identification of alternative coastal adaptation options suitable for the city's coastal conditions. Elected members would recall that at the Council meeting in December 2023, it was resolved that the city prepare a new draft char map having regard to internationally recognised scientific evidence, further research and coastal monitoring, identification of alternative adaptation options, and the review of State Planning Policy 2.6. The city engaged International Coastal Management Consulting and Griffith University to undertake the research, which was completed earlier this year. The purpose of the research was to identify existing, new or innovative approaches used to manage coastal impacts, including coastal erosion, and options from within Australia and internationally were analysed to determine whether they are suitable to be applied to the city's coastline. So the research undertook strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats analysis and feasibility assessment of alternative coastal adaptations, also taking into account technical, environmental, economic and social feasibility of those options. So the final outcome is a comprehensive report providing alternative adaptation options for the city to consider to prevent coastal erosion. So the report outcomes align with community preferences for low visibility and nature-based solutions, while also acknowledging that structural options can remain an option where council wishes to investigate them further. And it is important to note that the report will be used to inform future stages of the development of the draft char map and site-specific detailed adaptation option assessments for areas experiencing substantial coastal erosion. So different options and combinations of options will be applicable to different sections of the city's coastline, and they're going to vary depending on the characteristics and vulnerability of specific locations. It's also important to note that the applicability of coastal adaptation options to the city's coastline doesn't necessarily mean that the report will be implemented at specific sites or included in the draft char map. So future stages of the development of the char map will be informed by feedback from the char map community reference group, the char map technical steering group, and of course the council. And the city will ensure that it keeps the community informed of char map progress as well, given the significant interest in our coastline and this particular project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Any questions on this item? Councillor Chester.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since Mr. Sideris referred to the cost, which is $33,300, I wonder if the Director does himself consider it's good value for money and whether he has any answers to give about the assumed failings as stated by Mr. Sideris.
Thank you, Councillor Chester. Director Parry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe I can answer that question. You're asking for a personal opinion with regard to what I consider to be the benefits of the report versus a member of the communities. This report is as a result, and it's been produced as a result of a council resolution, and I think that it does provide good information to inform future stages of the char map.
Just adding a further comment, Mr. Sideris referred to a lack of references. Do you think there's any validity to that comment?
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, I'm being asked for personal opinion. There are numerous references that are made at the conclusion of the report, which I consider to be quite adequate.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions on the item? Just a few then from myself. The char map reference group have been given a copy of this report and I believe provided feedback on it. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. And the outcomes of that, were there anything materially that changed the report once they were considering it, given that there's a number of people in the char map reference group who have professional qualifications in this area?
Mr. Mayor, the community reference group, the answer to that would be no, but the technical steering group, yes.
Okay. I know there's also an overlap between the people on both as well. Yep. And the material changes that came from the technical working group, if you're able to summarise some of those.
They were incorporated into the final report as far as I know, but I might take that one on notice, and if there were any material changes, we can provide those to elected members within the briefing pack.
Thank you, and we'll just go to the city's coastal engineer as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, yes, the report was workshopped with the technical committee. The technical committee were provided extensive time prior to that workshop to go through the report as it was in draft form. And following those discussions, those comments were taken up by Dr. Sarno and his team and incorporated. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And just a short question on the... Just trying to get the name of it. The hybrid seawall dune system. So in that case, if a seawall is put in, it's buried. And if that's to occur, is the way that that'll present to the public generally a sandy beach option, then as erosion occurs during the winter or after a significant erosion event, the wall would be revealed, and then after that, would it then be sought to return the beach to a similar situation prior to the event?
Through the chair, yes, that's quite correct in the fact that while it's one of the more expensive options, it's going to look exactly the way the beach looks at the present time in the dune system. It'll just have the wall buried, and the wall becomes the line of last defence should a very significant weather event or climate change happen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then a further question in relation to these different options. It's right to summarise, as Director Parry has said as well, that the options that have come back from multi-criteria analysis have come back generally in line with the community's expectations of soft options along the coastline. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct, because the community reference group on the 18th of March went through a facilitated workshop session on that very subject to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be looking probably for an alternate on this item, just to change maybe the wording. I don't have the exact wording, but the wording for point 1 of the motion from notes to this council endorses the report, or at least endorses the soft options that are being presented as the outcomes of the report, just so there's some clarity that the city's done some research now and that we are looking towards the soft options that have now been identified through this. So I'll work with the officers about providing that alternate. I'll go to the acting CEO.
Yeah, we can take that on board and work with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Any final questions on this item? Thank you. We then move to the second item, which we have a presentation on, which is the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club on item 1213. I think it's the manager for assets is going to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Ryan Furcher, the Manager for Asset Management, who will speak on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the tenders submitted for the Sorrento Surf Life Saving Redevelopment Project and the commercial operator expression of interest for the operator of the cafe kiosk restaurant component of that project. This is an important community project for the city, for the Sorrento Surf Lifesaving Club, and for the many residents, visitors and beach users who rely on this location for recreation, public amenities, safety services and coastal access. The club is one of the largest sporting clubs in the city and provides significant volunteer lifesaving, patrol, education and community services across the Sorrento Beach and Hillary's Boat Harbour precinct. Since Council endorsed the project direction and design parameters in 2023, the city has progressed detailed design, tender documentation and procurement activities. Those processes have now provided a clearer picture of the estimated cost to deliver the project, the available funding, the current funding shortfall for the community facilities component, and the options available to Council in considering the next steps. The report also outlines the commercial operator expression of interest process, which has identified respondents suitable to progress to the next stage, subject to Council's consideration. This component is relevant not only to the future amenity of the foreshore, but also to the broader financial and delivery considerations for the redevelopment itself. As outlined in this report, the current total project estimate is approximately $30.4 million, which includes approximately $26.6 million for the community facilities and $3.8 million for the commercial facility. With the available funding of approximately $19.9 million, there is a shortfall of approximately $10.5 million for the community facility, and as such, additional funding sources and/or rescoping of the works are required before progressing to the construction stage. The City is seeking council support to enable it to explore additional external funding sources for this project and options to redesign the community facilities to reduce the potential project costs in line with any available funding. To enable the City to review options and undertake a redesign, the previous decisions of Council, which approved specific design parameters and directed the City to locate the facilities in the present locations, needs to be revoked, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just got a couple of questions, then I'll jump to the ward councillors on this one. The tender has come back at $12.5 million funded, with a $12.5 million funding shortfall. Could you also go through what are maybe some of the main drivers of those costs? So such as the location of the club, how it's been originally, I think Ms. Kwok touched on this in her presentation, back in 21 and 22, that the building itself was up near the car park area, and then there was a decision to move it into the coastal reserve, so into the grassed park area. Could you give a commentary about how moving the building into that location has increased the civil construction costs dramatically?
Thank you. And through you, while the location of the facilities has driven significant civil construction costs, as you've stated, where the building is currently located and moving across to the north into the park area requires it to be built into the dune system, and so therefore the civil costs, ensuring that access to the foreshore, both for the surf life-saving vehicles themselves, emergency vehicle access through to there, and also the community access through from the coastal pathway has significantly increased costs there. We've also seen that costs in the construction market for those civil works due to this supply chain impacts have also increased in this short period of time when we went out to tender, and also noting that this is a complex coastal environment as well compared to a normal park environment. Those works have been significantly higher in scope as well.
Thank you. And then also in the design parameters back in June 2022, there was the decision to separate the three buildings. So the public amenities, the commercial space, and the Surf Life Club facilities. Back in 21-22, when it was 8.85 million, it was originally conceived as a one building option. Has that also contributed significantly to the costings, the cost changes?
Thank you, and through you. Yes, obviously, I guess not obviously, but by separating the buildings out, you have those, in a sense, triplication of the supply and service issues that you have to have for all the utilities, and there is a staging of the project itself also leading to increased costs. Instead of being able to build it all in the one hit, we have got a staged approach to the delivery.
Yep. And then also, as far as moving the building forward and then having the additional civil construction that's required for the footpaths, vehicle access and so on, as you touched on earlier, it's also required there to be clearing of some of the existing dunes and revegetation that has to then occur at another location. So does that also come at another significant cost to the city, given if we weren't clearing and we weren't having to cut into a dune, that those costs wouldn't also be borne as part of this project?
Thank you, and through you. Yeah, yes, that's correct. Being the coastal environment compared to a normal park, there's more dune protection issues that we have to deal with. Obviously, we have revegetation across a lot of our sites, parks as well, with the natural environment, areas that we seek to protect as much as possible. But in this coastal environment, pretty much the whole area requires significant work, and therefore we've had those increased costs as part of this project. They're not part of the construction tender itself. Those are part of the non-tender costs that will be coming in as part of this project for the revegetation works that are required.
Yep, thank you. And then also, do we have a quantum of how large some of these costs are? Because as far as I know, indicatively, it's in the multiple millions. It's the choice to actually place it into the coastal reserve in the grassland area, splitting it into three buildings, the dune revegetation, the offset costs, the cost of stabilising the ground, which is currently a park, and then stabilising that so you can build on that. Do we have an indicative cost of all of those elements? Because I know it's more than just a couple of million.
Yes, through you. Yes, we do have those costs that were undertaken as part of those pre-tender estimates, and we've also sought new contract rates for the revegetation works that we can provide. As part of the pack.
Thank you. And I think the acting CEO's
Just
got
to
a comment as well.
To clarify, Mr. Mayor, we can provide that in the pack. Mr. Foots?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I will go to Councillor Ventura.
Thank you. Through you, I think as the ward councillors, Councillor Callan, I have a few questions, as you could anticipate. Okay, I'll get the ball rolling with, can the administration clearly explain why the community facilities now have an approximate 10.5 million funding shortfall while the commercial component is fully funded, and whether any of those funding allocations are legally or practically capable of being redirected to support delivery of the Surf Life Saving Club facility?
It's quite a broad one. We'll go to the asset manager again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Ventura. The community facilities component of the project, which we say is being the surf life saving and the public amenity facilities, was estimated at 26.6 million. That has been allocated 100% of the external funding, the $8 million from the state government, the 1.5 million from Lottery West, and the 1 million club contribution. And also 100% of the available city contribution, being approximately 4.4 million from the specified Sorrento Surf Life Saving Club redevelopment reserve, which goes towards the community facilities there. This leaves the shortfall of that approximately 10.5 million for the community facilities. With the commercial facility component of the project, that being approximately 3.8 million, that is being funded from the city's reserve specifically set aside for income generating projects, as that project will support diversifying the city's revenue streams. Hence, there's no shortfall for that component of the project.
Councillor.
Thank you. Could also the administration provide council with a breakdown of the approximately $16 million increase between the original concept estimate and the preferred tender, identifying the contribution of the contract escalation, council-directed scope changes, statutory requirements, accessibility, civil works, landscaping, and other project components? So, for example, the civil works, could we see how those changes have now added to the project, especially on a financial level?
Mr. Mayor, if I may request that, we're having difficulty hearing the answers over here from the manager, so
Sure.
if you could ask to speak a bit louder into the mic, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. If we'll go to the manager, and if you're able to speak into the microphone just a little clearer, if you could.
Sorry, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. How's that, Councillor Fishwick? Thank you. I'll take the details will be taken on notice, Councillor Ventura. We'll provide that in the pack, the breakdown. What I can advise is that the key increases that we're seeing are due to significant increases in the construction market and the supply chain impacts that we've said were due to the situation in the Middle East at the time of going to tender. Also, the civil works required for this coastal location are very complex for a project even of the simple nature of being this building. And were not really contemplated at that original concept design stage several years ago. And alongside that, obviously, there's those design parameters, as has been discussed, previously endorsed by council, that have led to those changes as well.
Thank you. When the report refers to redesign or value engineering, what aspects of the projects are actually being reconsidered? Like, are we talking about specification, floor area, civil works, staging, building a location, or more of a broader redesign? And what process will be used to ensure essential operational capability is maintained?
I'll go to the manager on that.
Thank you. To achieve any significant saving on the project, a full redesign of all aspects would be required, as you stated. And part of that will be also having to reassess how the delivery of the project would be taken.
Thank you. Just two more from me, and then I'll probably hand over to my co-ward. Just two more. If redesign proceeds, what operational requirements does administration consider non-negotiable to ensure that the surf life-saving facility continues to meet the club's current and future operational needs? And has the club been involved in identifying those requirements?
Go to the manager again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While the club has been involved in identifying both the surf lifesaving and their club operational requirements throughout this project from the original design brief. The city has not considered any operational requirements for the redesign, as yet, but we'll obviously liaise with the club as we've continued to do so.
I think just to add to that answer, it's not possible for the administration to consult the club currently on a redesign when the council hasn't yet made a decision. Yep. Councillor.
Obviously just going with previous decision making, but I understand what you're saying. Okay, just final one for me, and I'll hand over and obviously give everyone else a chance to speak. Following tonight's briefing, what are the remaining decision points before construction could commence? Like, at what options does administration realistically intend to present to council, which includes funding, redesign, and revised staging, and alternative delivery models? What's required?
Goes to the manager again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To enable a decision to be made to commence with construction, the city will need input from the stakeholders as we need to balance the project costs within the available funding. We cannot comment on the options at this stage as these would be assessed following the decision of council.
Go to Councillor Count.
Yes, thank you. Given the surf lifesaving facility currently has a significant funding shortfall, what is the strategic rationale for progressing the commercial operator procurement process now, and how does doing so improve council's future options regarding the ultimate redevelopment outcome?
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to Mr. Furtz again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Count. The city recommendation within the report is for the commercial operator EOI to progress to stage 2 of that process. This recognises that any construction works for the commercial facility were staged to be delivered in 3 to 4 years' time, as was raised during the EOI briefing session process and understood by the respondents, as the commercial facility location was where the existing club rooms are, and the delivery will be considered as part of that options analysis with the proponents.
We'll go to the acting CEO as well.
Perhaps if I may add, Mr. Mayor, I think as in terms of it will enable the city to get a clear understanding of the commercial return that we can get from that operator. Going to the stage 2 of the expression of interest is not an approval to commence construction. It is an approval to continue discussions with 2 operators, and that's what we're proposing to enable us to then clearly identify the commercial opportunities to offset the investment there.
Councillor.
Thank you. And if redevelopment is delayed, what is the current condition of the existing surf club, and what maintenance or renewal works have been previously deferred, and what additional expenditure will now be required to keep the building safe and operational?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Fards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, while the existing club rooms and the southern toilets are nearing the end of their useful lives, they are being managed to minimise expenditure. Acknowledge that we were planning to be replaced in the coming years. Changing this timeframe will require minor works to be undertaken by the city and also the club under their lease requirements to ensure that both facilities operate until their replacement. And obviously we have our existing maintenance budgets that we'll work within.
Councillor.
Thank you. And one more. Recommendation point 6 proposes revoking all aspects of council's previous decisions. Can administration explain exactly what practical effects those changes will have on the previously approved redevelopment, along with any potential savings?
Go to the manager again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recommendation 6 seeks to revoke aspects of the previous council decisions. It will provide the city with the flexibility to consider options in response to both the funding shortfall identified through the tender process, but also allow us to look at other options in delivery across the board and have those discussions with both the club and other stakeholders, the council itself as well, and elected members going forward to find that funding shortfall gap being filled.
Councillor.
Thank you. I'll let some others have some questions.
Thank you. Councillor Fishwick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have several questions, if I may, to the CEO or the relevant director. My first question is pursuant to Section 357 of the Local Government Act and in accordance with Part 4, Division 2 of the Local Government Functions and General Regulations, particularly Regulation 18, if the council was to decline all tenders, I believe that the city could negotiate with one or more of those tenders for up to 12 months. Specifically, is that authority from the Local Government Act, the Functions and General Regs, or the city's procurement policy, or from the conditions of tender issued for the project, as I believe it could assist the council in understanding its options and ensuring any subsequent negotiations are conducted with the city's legal procurement framework? And if so, would that provide sufficient flexibility to negotiate a reduced scope of works or revised pricing should additional funding become available during that period? Happy to repeat that if it's a little bit convoluted.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to Director Humphrey.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Regulation 11 of the Local Government Functions and General Regulations permits that if a tender has been called within 6 months, the city is able to negotiate with any person, whether they submitted a tender or not, for the provision of those goods and services, subject to the tenders being declined on the basis that nothing met either the tender specification or the value for money component of that tender.
Thank you. Further questions, if I may. In terms of valued engineering, has the administration identified elements of the current design that could be valued engineered or staged to reduce the current funding shortfall while preserving the core functionality of the surf life-saving facilities?
Thank you. We'll go to the Acting CEO, Mr Claassen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think what's important, and I think the manager asset management had covered part of that, and so has Councillor Vinci-Hollow in his question. It's an overall redesign we need to look at, and that includes areas such as the civil works, the staging, the building location, specifications, floor areas. We have not specifically considered exactly at this stage where that would be, but allowing and requesting the officers to go back to look at those options will give us that ability to look at those aspects, Councillor Fishwick. I don't know if the manager asset management's got something to add, Mr Mayor.
Goes to the manager as well.
Thank you. I guess on the value engineering side in the current design, there is very limited option for the city to pull out anything. It won't come anywhere close to filling the gap that is currently in place.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. In relation to loan funding, previous advice I received indicated that a 10 million or that a 10-year loan through the Western Australian Treasury Corporation would be the most financially prudent borrowing option of 10.5 million if council chose to pursue that course. Has the administration undertaken any modelling to demonstrate what impact annual repayments of a loan approximately 1.39 million per year would have on the city's long-term financial plan and obviously our rates during that period?
Thank you, Councillor. Director Humphrey.
Through Mr Mayor, no, we haven't yet, but to give some very brief indication to Council, 1.39 million over the course of the next 10 years is probably going to be fairly close to 1% of rates each year that would need to go into the loan repayments. The second part would be, though, Council would need to determine if the loan was going to be what we call a self-supporting loan, whether the repayments would be met in part or full from the lessee of the building, or whether the city was going to fund the loan repayments itself before we could put that in the strategic financial plan.
Councillor.
In terms of the commercial revenue, the report notes that the commercial component has attracted 2 quality proponents and it's expected to provide an ongoing revenue stream. Has the administration modelled whether that future revenue could contribute directly or indirectly towards financing the redevelopment or servicing part of any borrowings?
Go to Director Humphrey.
Through you, Mr Mayor, my recollection is that the revenue generated from the commercial facility was to be returned to what we would refer to as general revenue. So if that was now to be redirected to servicing a loan, we would have to model what that impact would be over the 10 years.
Councillor.
Thank you. In terms of looking at maybe a contribution from the club, if the Sorrento Surf Lifesaving Club was able to contribute an additional amount of money, potentially say around $50,000 per year towards the loan repayment, subject to a review of its financial projections, would the administration be prepared to undertake that review before council makes the final decision on the project?
Director Humphrey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we could prepare a model within the next 2 to 3 days that included that. It would likely only cover the interest on a loan, though. It wouldn't cover the principal repayments. That's something that we would have to show in the model. We could also prepare a model showing what portion of a loan could be met through a self-supporting arrangement and provide that to council, noting that we haven't discussed this with the club themselves.
Thank you. And the Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and just to add to what Director Humphrey has indicated, $50,000 contribution to what has been calculated as approximately $1.4 million annual repayment of that loan is a very small contribution. Hence, it will make very little impact on the city's financial position if the contribution of the club is only $50,000. And as the director has indicated, we have not had any discussions with the club. However, one would, if that is to be a loan, as Director Humphrey has indicated, if that is a loan to be funded by the club, that's a different situation, and obviously that's a decision for council. That would most probably, if the club can fund that, that would make a difference. I think the $50K on a $1.4 million annual payment will make very little difference.
Councillor.
Thank you. Just as a follow-on from that, in relation to their sponsorship, could potentially the city's annual sponsorship payment to the club be structured as a contribution towards, say, servicing the loan repayment subject to council's approval? And could an estimate be provided what that arrangement could be if it's towards the borrowing costs?
Thank you. We'll go to Director Humphrey.
Through Mr. Mayor, there's 2 aspects to it. The first is the accounting treatment of it. The short answer there is no. It would cancel itself out, but certainly the city could enter into an arrangement with the surf club that showed the contributions it otherwise would have made to the surf club by way of sponsorship being deducted from any contribution that the surf club's required to make. But as I said, from an accounting purpose, we can't have revenue and expenditure offsetting each other. It simply means the transaction didn't occur.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Just in relation to additional funding from other sources, given the recognised regional significance of Sorrento Beach and obviously the surf lifesaving service provided to the broader community, has the administration, after evaluating the tenders and noting a $10.5 million shortfall in its funding for the project, had any recent discussions with the state or federal governments regarding additional grant fund monies been looked at this stage before this design was presented to us, or in the current circumstances given from when we first had a report last week to now?
Thank you. We'll go to the Acting CEO.
Thank you, and free Mr. Mayor. No, the city has not formally approached any of the state members. There were informal discussions in terms of potential shortfalls. Hence, the recommendation from the administration in Part 4 is that would allow the Chief Executive Officer or the administration to seek alternate funding and then delay any decisions to not award the tender to after that. Hence the way the recommendation is structured, Councillor Fishwick, to ensure that we can explore potential opportunities with the state and or federal government. And if that funding is available or not available, we can make a decision based on that.
Okay. Perhaps my final question, and I'll probably run out, but not exhausted because it could be more down the track. If the in relation to timing, if the council were to defer awarding the construction contract while additional funding sources were looked at and cost-saving measures were instigated, what time frame would the administration require to report back with a comprehensive funding strategy?
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to the Manager for Assets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the best way to put it is the recommendation, if accepted by council, will enable the city to explore those alternate design and or funding opportunities, and then we'll be able to come back with a timeline. Until that point, we are not sure.
Thank you. We'll go to the Acting CEO as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor. I think there's two aspects of that timeline. If by some miracle we get an additional $10.5 million approved on a very short period of time, that time period, Councillor Fishwick, would be months. If we're actually looking at an option for a full redesign with funding strategies around that, you're looking at around 12 months to bring that back to council.
Thank you. Any further questions? I think Councillor O'Neill, you were indicating earlier. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just really quickly on the point that Councillor Fishwick was trying to address there. Would the city consider that a loan of $10.5 million at this stage that we are, would they consider this a prudent measure, or would this be something that would be considered given the current financial situation of the city? And follow on to that, if that was to happen, and say, for instance, as Councillor Fisher mentioned, that the Surf Life Saving Club was contributing a certain amount, what would happen if the Surf Life Saving Club could not fulfil that promised amount at some point? What would happen for the ratepayers of the city?
Thank you, Councillor. There was two questions in that. I might go to the acting CEO given this.
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor. In terms of the option to take up a loan to fund the shortfall, the administration position is that if that was the preferred option, we most probably would have recommended that to council. That is not the preferred option. What we need to look at here is actually look at an option that can actually fit with the available funding. In terms of the overall impact, and I think Director Humphrey has explained the potential cost of taking up that loan, where the building is a Surf Life Saving Club building, and we do build that in. We've got an existing lease with that's based on an approval from council where there is a refunding option. They will forego the lease, or that will negate the lease. I might look at the manager asset management, what the provisions are in that lease. But that is for a facility that lends itself to a position where council can then decide to lease it out to another operator and most probably get a commercial return. I think you will be hard pressed to do that with a Surf Life Saving Club.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Moving on to just the existing building itself, I'm curious. It was mentioned this evening about some refurbishment options that were approached earlier on. I'm curious, has the city conducted or has it inspected the building lately? If it has, could they tell us if it's determined to be structurally sound for a possible refurbishment option, if council deemed to look at something like that? And if it hasn't, what would be required to make that happen moving forward?
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to the manager again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city has recently conducted, I think it was 18 months ago, condition assessments of its entire building inventory. At that time, no information had come back on any structural issues with the Surf Life Saving Club rooms, the southern toilets, or the northern toilets, what we consider the three separate buildings there. There are refurbishment works that would need to be done if the building was to be retained for the longer period of time, but then also those would trigger compliances now with the latest construction codes and access and inclusion requirements, and we would have to assess them. So it's not simply a matter of refurbishing the building as is. It would have to be refurbished to meet all the current standards that weren't obviously applicable back in, well, over the decades that the building has been in operations.
Thank you. So if council was to look at something like a refurbishment and expansion option, could you say that that the cost would be significantly lower, maybe even fitting into the budget that has already been allocated for it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I might start off, and if the manager of asset management got some more details to add, we can do that. I think what's important is that a part of the original assessment, refurbishment was considered as a potential option. My understanding at the time, there were concerns about the foundations and the structural viability of that longer-term refurbishment. The manager of asset management has indicated that for the life of the building, there are no structural issues identified, but that's for the building in its current location, the way it looks and feels. That doesn't mean that that ability is there when you start expanding that building and potentially, as per the refurbishment options, looking at a second story on that facility. That is most probably not a viable option. The detail of any of those refurbishment options is something that we can explore, but it's difficult to assess and provide a definitive answer tonight, Councillor O'Neill, in terms of, yes, we think it's a viable option or not. I think that's some part of the assessments that can be undertaken and considered as part of the overall assessment of which option would be a viable option.
Councillor? Yep. Thank you. Councillor Hill.
Yes, thanks. Through you, Mr. Mayor. My first question relates to the council resolution of June 2022 and the option 1 that was preferred at the time. I'm asking for these questions to be answered in the pack. The questions would be, is that option 1 design fit for purpose? What was the estimated overall cost of delivering option 1? And what would be the estimated cost of delivering it today? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to the manager again, if we can take those on notice.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hill. Yes, we'll take that on notice and provide that in the pack. Sorry, we'll take that on notice, Councillor Hill, and provide it in the pack.
Thank you. Councillor?
Yes, thank you. I just have one more question. This relates to where we are today, and it's to do with lessons learned. You know, obviously we're in a situation now where the cost estimate is much, much higher than it was 2.5 years ago. So I'm just curious whether the city officers are in a position to advise us any lessons learned from what's happened over the last 2.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the manager for lessons learned.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hill. I guess this project has demonstrated the challenges associated we've had with relying on early concept estimates for a complex coastal sites. As the design development has progressed and the project scope has become more defined, obviously the cost estimates have become increasingly detailed and they've been more reflective of the actual market conditions, but obviously in that earlier piece, those coastal concerns and those coastal issues weren't fully clear. The project has also highlighted for us the importance of maintaining that alignment between the scope, the available funding, the evolving stakeholder expectations, and particularly where there's been significant design changes and complex site works were involved as those expectations and changes came about.
Thank you for the response.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? I'll go to Councillor Vinciulo, just see if there's anybody else who hasn't asked a question before I do a second round on these. Councillor Vinciulo.
Thank you. Through you, just a couple more from me. Has the administration updated its assessment of the commercial component's long-term financial performance, including expected net returns after the proposed state ground lease, life cycle maintenance, operating risks, and vacancy assumptions?
Go to the manager.
And thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The city is currently working on those in the background. Obviously, we were coming to council to seek a decision on progressing to the stage 2, where that would be more fully developed and provided as part of that process.
I'll go to the acting CEO as well.
Just for clarity, Mr. Mayor, that is stage 2 of the expression of interest process that will enable us to better formalise the potential commercial return and how that would impact in our commerciality of that development.
Councillor?
Just one last one for me, thank you. If council resolves to redesign or materially alter the project, What process does administration propose for communicating those changes to the Surf Lifesaving Club residents and other stakeholders to ensure there's a clear understanding of the revised scope, staging, and the anticipated timeline moving forward? Because I think we can all agree comms is incredibly important moving forward.
We'll go to the Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely, Councillor Vinciolo. Whatever decision Council makes, it's going to be absolutely essential that we revisit our comms plan. So we will redevelop our comms plan, revisit the comms plan. How would we engage with all the relevant stakeholders, the state government, their expectations on funding, expenditure, etc., council, the community, and those stakeholders, and that will all be captured in a comms plan that we'll develop with our comms team in terms of how we would engage with all those relevant parts of the community.
Any further questions? We'll go to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll reference back to June 22, which has been raised. In terms of the business case that was presented for those options to be considered, confirmed the revenue income from the commercial operation was in effect being applied to the cost of the community aspects to deliver an overall development that would be as close or to minimise the cost from that. So have we already, as part of this project, been applying the commercial rent from that aspect to deliver the cost of the community aspect?
Go to the Acting CEO.
Mr. Mayor, if I understand the question correctly, Mr. Deputy Mayor, in terms of the current position, we're looking at the commercial return to offset and refund the call it the loan out of the income generating reserve and provide that funding, as Director Humphrey has indicated, as part of the city's general income. It is not used to offset the cost of the building, but it's used to then augment our general income as part of our diversification of the income stream to the city. So it's not necessarily applied to a loan repayment on the community facility, but rather an income stream that is generated from an income generating reserve.
Deputy Mayor.
So as part of the information to flow forward, will the business case that was presented in June 22 be reconfigured to separate those aspects into two different development costings so that the commercial cost and revenues are not being applied against the community costs and expenses of operating that?
Mr. Mayor, I think what's important here is that I will need to take the question on notice and provide some information on the pack how we would apply those, Mr. Deputy Mayor. But I think what's important for us is to look at the commercial return for the commercial investment. Does that make sense? And I think perhaps, although the council decision at the start was in alignment with that, the feedback and general direction from elected members and council over the latter part of this project is that the commercial component of this project needs to be self-funding, and that's really important. So hence, although that was originally used to offset that, the direction is more in alignment with what you're suggesting now, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that the commercial return is to pay for the commercial investment the council would make, and the community facility would stand on its own. Most of community facilities don't show a return. We need to assess the value that brings to the community, and hence there is a contribution from council to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Last of all, as part of the process in that June 22 report, there were references to, I suppose, considerations to be taken into account with the club and how the club would, I suppose, come out of this situation. So were there references within there, from my recollection, that the club would be in a situation where it would be able to generate ongoing revenues from the new development and be able to put itself in a stronger position?
I'm unsure of that through you, Mr. Mayor, unless the Director of Corporate Services can comment on that. Otherwise, we'll have to take the question on notice.
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going from recollection, so I'll take it on notice and provide further information to the PACs, but we did make comment in the June 2022 report around the size of the club and the ability to attract more members and provide more member services, which would in turn generate revenue for the club, be able to provide further training, and that the facility would be a larger facility, more adept to being able to be hired out. So there was some commentary on those aspects. I don't recall anything specifically about a separate commercial component from that particular report, but as I said, I'll take the question on notice and provide the information to the PACs.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes.
Councillor?
Thank you. If Council ultimately decides to decline the current tender, how long does the preferred tender remain available for negotiation, and what financial or procurement implications should Council understand during that period?
I will go to the Director for Corporate Services.
Through Mr. Mayor, if all tenders are declined, that's the end of the tender process. The city would then have 6 months where you could go to direct negotiations for a provider. If we fall outside of that 6 months, you would have to repeat the tender process. The main cost with the tender process is the development of specifications, which is quite expensive. We have to pay someone to develop the full range of building specifications, drawings, etc. And there is the other risk the city needs to be aware of is that re-tendering projects can make it difficult for people to wish to resubmit, because there is a cost to the building companies in actually preparing their tender submissions.
Any further questions?
What is the estimate to build that tender process you just said?
Through Mr. Mayor, can I take that on notice? It would depend on the amount of re-specification work and redesign work that needs to be done. But I'll provide some indication of a general tender in the PACs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to the Acting CEO as well.
Thank you, free Mr. Mayor. I think perhaps just in addition to what Director Humphrey has indicated, irrespective if you do a redesign, you need to redevelop all the specifications. Irrespective if you go through a tender process or you're able to go through a renegotiation process, those tender specifications, you still need to develop all the specifications of the contract. So that difference is not going to be there. It's literally just the tender process itself, but that has, unfortunately, will add cost to those that would tender, and you can't just keep on re-tendering a project and hope that you're going to get people to respond. They will just stop responding.
Any further questions? I just have a couple before we move on. It's in some of the responses to Councillor Fishwick's question. So about the ability to renegotiate, so that was section 3.57 of the Act and Regulation 11, and the ability to negotiate. Is that really a route that is open to the council? There were one of two conditions has to be met. The first one being that the tenderers didn't meet the tender specification, and a question around value for money. In these cases, in the current case, isn't it accurate to say that the tenderers have met the tender specification?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the event that they don't meet the value for money component, all tenders can be declined, and the exemption states that as long as the tenders have been declined on or basis, either of those bases, you can proceed. If you're asking me if I would recommend it, typically I wouldn't. I would prefer, for a project of this magnitude, that a tender process is followed. I think the 42 days of advertising and requiring people to make submissions is certainly preferred procurement. But if there were to be minor alterations, if there was a severable part or a part that could be redesigned, that could be considered. The other alternative that council may wish to consider is a closed tender on the second tenders, only make it open to those people who've already submitted a tender in the first process, and consider other tender methodologies such as a reverse tender, where we name the price and ask the builders to actually provide what they can build for that price. Yep. But as I said, in theory, yes, you can do it, but generally we would prefer tenders be sought for a project of $20+ million.
Yep. Yeah, so I can see quite clearly the tender specifications have been met. And the question around value for money, is this really an appropriate use of the regulation in this case? We've gone through a competitive tender process. We've received of course, I can't talk about the numbers publicly, but we've received a number of competitive tenders that sit within a particular range of each other. Is this really an appropriate use of this provision to say, no, we haven't received value for money when we know the price of these matters, price of this project on the open market sits in a ballpark of what?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the provision, and I'm relying on previous experience here, the provision generally is there to allow a situation where either there needs to be an amendment to the tender specifications, either we've over-specified, or a situation where the project needs to proceed, but you need to find a slightly better or slightly cheaper proposal from the tenderers. It wouldn't be against the regulation. Again, I think what we need to consider is what's the variation in design. If it's simply reducing one area, as in excising one part of the tender that wasn't a severable portion, yes, it's appropriate. If the building's redesigned, my strong recommendation would be proceed to another tender process to make sure that you actually open it up to the market again and also has the enforceability of the tender process behind you. But as I said, if it was a simple, we're not going to go ahead with a toilet block or a room, or we're value engineered in that sense, yes, it's perfectly legitimate to use this part of the regulations to seek prices from a closed group.
It does seem a little bit counterintuitive to say we turn down all the options and say if we're going to value engineer or make small changes to it, let's say the toilet block and the commercial facilities stay in, to then say we'll use this provision to try and negotiate something exclusively with one tenderer when normally you'd want to go out and ask multiple people what their prices are. It doesn't seem like a competitive way to get the best price. Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, what I would be looking at is going back to everyone who submitted a tender and saying this part has been removed from the scope. Can that change your price? The other time it has been used successfully by local governments is where there's only one tenderer, and then they can negotiate the price for a specific change that they're seeking. But I go back to the original statement. If there's a redesign, the strong recommendation would be to re-tender, given that, as Director Classen has said, the most significant cost is redeveloping the specifications, which you need to do in any case before we enter into a contract with anyone.
Yep. And then moving on to the question of, again, raised by Councillor Fishwick, around using the commercial revenue to offset the costs of the project. Do we have a rough, I know half the answers, do we have a rough payback period of the commercial elements, both as far as the payback period, but also a return on investment for those items? Because I know we've previously calculated the payback period for taking the money out of the Catalina Reserve. Do we have a return on investment that's been done for that?
Not off the top of my head. I think any sort of return on investment, you would need to consider the results of the EOI process too, which I haven't got that data to hand. But yeah, we can prepare a return on investment for council and distribute that once that data is available.
Yep, okay. And would it be correct to say that before actually the city's investment being returned for these commercial elements, it's not really going to help us pay down the cost of the commercial facility then before that occurs? Because on a rough element, as to say it's 3.8 million in the agenda, if you had say 400 squares and you say a market price, rough market price of say $500 per square metre, similar to what's charged at Swell, that's 19 years for a payback period, just to pay back the money into the city's reserve. Is that really feasible to be looking at that as a revenue stream to fund the Surf Life Club building? That doesn't quite seem feasible or something that's going to have a material impact.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the original concept of including commercial facilities in things like the Surf Club was to offset some of the costs the city would otherwise incur from developing those sorts of projects. So the reason it was included was that it would generate a small portion of commercial revenue which would offset the costs the city would otherwise have to incur. So that's the basis for even including it to begin with. How you measure that, we can prepare various scenarios for you, whether it's the payback first, whether it's the offset of the interest, that's entirely up to council.
And do we know actually the full life cycle costs of this building? Do we know what the design life of this is? Is it, say, a 30-year design life? And then how many years are we going to be depreciating this over, and what is actually the cost per year? Because it's one thing to say, well, we will have a $30 million construction, but at the same time, then what is the cost of that per annum over the year, maintenance, depreciation, and the full life cycle cost? Do we have any understanding of what that is if we go ahead with 30 million?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the manager of asset management is nodding his head at me. Yes, we would normally, as part of any sort of contract for construction of this size, particularly anything over $1 million, we would require as part of the contract and documentation that's provided by the contractors exactly how long each component would last. So when we capitalise an asset, we do it by component. We know how long each of those components will last and what it will cost us to operate the building. And that's part of the tender specification. We haven't prepared it yet based on the specifications received in this tender, but we can.
Yep. I'll go to the asset manager as well if he's been nodding his head. Are we able to prepare some of those numbers, even an indicative one before the council meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Director of Corporate Services said, we have that number sort of in the background. Obviously, with the tender not being accepted at this point, we don't have their formal numbers to be able to use, but we have the city's numbers based on the breakdown of each component of the works itself.
Yep. And the building itself, is that a rough 30-year design life, 40, 50, or?
We aim for a 40 to 50-year life. Obviously, in the coastal area with higher spec materials, we're still trying to aim for those same targets.
Okay. So going ahead with a project of this scale, is that adding, say, onto our operating costs over $1 million a year? So I'm thinking about if it's a 30, 40-year design life and you're depreciating the 30 million. I know not all the components depreciate at that rate.
I'll have to take that on notice, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, yeah, it won't be exactly that number. It's not the flat figure, but yeah, depending on the components, we'll give that to you in the pack afterwards.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any final questions on this item? No, I'll just flag I may be putting an alternate just to add consideration to look at the option which was in, I think it was April 2021. I'll use that as sort of, not necessarily an option to proceed with, but an option for consideration of different ideas from. I guess we'll move then to the rest of the item on tonight's agenda. So we'll move back to the start of the agenda and we'll work them through sequentially. So item 12.1, any questions? Councillor Hill.
Yes, thanks to you, Mr. Mayor. I'm referring to attachment number 1, page 1 of 4, North Ward item covering childcare premises and restaurant/cafe at 44 Grand Ocean Entrance, Burns Beach. I'm seeking clarity on the modification to the previous approval. Could I just be clear on what is being modified? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the Director for Planning.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the modification is an extension for time. The original application had a condition requiring development to commence within 2 years, and this is an extension of time for a further 2 years.
Thank you. Just to follow up, just to be absolutely clear, so there are no changes to the design at all. It's just a time change. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Any further questions on this item, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item listed on page 4 of the attachment refers to single house tree removal. Could we have some further clarification, noting that was refused, so trying to understand the nature of that application.
Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll pass this on to the Manager of Planning to answer that question.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The development application was seeking to remove one of the large, I think they're eucalyptus or gum trees that were retained as part of the former Craigie High School site, and that tree was retained on private property, and there was a requirement through the subdivision and the planning approval that those trees be retained and approval be sought from the city if they wanted to undertake any maintenance or works to the tree. And the applicant submitted a development application, and following an assessment of that against the standards, that was refused.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
So it's seeking confirmation, that obviously this one has nothing to do with what is being currently talked about, but removing trees on private property would trigger a development application requirement across the board.
Go to the manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, this one is slightly different because there's some history to the planning framework that applies to land stemming back to that Craigie structure plan and the requirement to retain the trees. There's obviously been a conversation, as you're aware, with the Strategic Community Reference Group recently around tree retention, and that's still an ongoing conversation in relation to those works on private land and whether development approval is or is not required.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And just a quick one. In terms of the recent announcement by the state government around R20 coding changing next year, would that impact any of the current decisions that we are facing, or people just don't currently apply, but for those potential subdivisions?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, look, the majority of the city is coded R20, so certainly if the changes that were announced or the proposed changes that were announced are introduced, there would be a change in terms of the number of dwellings that would be permitted across the city. We're not across the detail of the full extent of those, and we won't know what that is until the state government formally release the full suite of changes, which we're expecting to be a little bit later this year.
Thank you. Any further questions on this item? Thank you. We'll then move to item 12.2, which is the small bar additions at O'Mara Boulevard at Luca. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just information that the Development Assessment Panel is meeting tomorrow, and I will forward any further information to all elected members after the meeting.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Hill.
Yes, thanks. Just to clarify on that, I'm also on the DAP panel tomorrow, but the item being considered by DAP tomorrow is unrelated to the item before us tonight.
It's a separate matter. Yep. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the costs incurred by the city, if the applicant loses, do we get reimbursed for all our costs or any portion of it?
We'll go to the Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't normally get reimbursed. It's not normal practice for us to get the money back that we've spent on this.
Deputy Mayor. Sorry, I didn't get that.
I'll refrain from saying anything that might get me in trouble. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. I think just to add to that, because it's in the SAT, it's a no-cost forum, so you can make cost applications, but then you've got to meet a particular threshold of certain parties either being vexatious or inappropriate behaviour, so it's a very high threshold to meet. Any further questions on this? The ward councillors? No? That's all right, thank you. We'll then move to item 12.3, execution of documents. Okay, thank you. Item 12.4, which we'll deal with confidentially. Item 12.5, status of decisions. Thank you. 12.6, minutes of regional council meetings. I do have a question on this one. The budget's been approved by the MRC recently. If the works application, which is currently before the MRC, does not go forward, so that's for the piggyback liner and other matters, what do we have any sort of understanding of how that might change their budget outcomes, or if the environmental protection notice comes out a particular way? I'll go to the acting CEO.
Through Mr. Mayor, a very difficult question to answer. I think what's important to note is that their budget, or the MRC's budget, was adopted based on a number of assumptions. Those assumptions assumed waste to energy contract in place, assumed business as usual, assumed the piggyback liner will be approved. Hence, from memory, might stand corrected on that. Hence, their budget is adopted based on that premise. I think there was a request from, I think, one of our representatives at the meeting of MRC. If that does not happen, does it mean that we actually get to reconsider the budget. That is most probably a decision for the MRC Council, but that is something that we will, as the administration, request the MRC to reconsider if the assumptions underlying the budget is not eventuating.
Thank you. And there'll be some forthcoming decisions, we believe, from the regulator. Is the administration all right to give the council a confidential update when those all come through?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. I think the expectations is that that decision is likely, from all indications, to land before the end of July. Obviously, that is just an assumption from our side. If that happens, I would suggest elected members that we provide you with a confidential update at the August strategy session. Might not do a report, might just seek approval that we just tag it right onto the end of that and have a quick discussion about the implications of that on the MRC, on waste deliveries, etc., and how we progress from there. I will ask the manager, Waste and Fleet Services, to start preparing for that, so we are able to provide you with that update.
Yeah. Thank you. And lastly, the information sharing between the regional councils, not so much Catalina because it's winding up, but the MRC. Is there anything we can do to increase the amount of information the MRC is providing the member councils, specifically around the closure and post-closure reports and any environmental reports that have been done, both into the profile of the tip or any other issues?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that question. That is something that we have been exploring, and again, the city's representatives has put up notices of motion at the MRC to seek reports, firstly on the void space modelling, the monthly changes in that void space modelling, and that is now reported in the public arena on a quarterly basis, which is really helpful in assisting us to get an understanding on how that progresses. The option for us is to consider other through the same avenue, however, noting that we aren't always successful to get that through the representatives on the MRC.
And I guess this is more a governance question. It's causing me a great amount of unhappiness on a personal level about the amount of information that goes to the MRC, which doesn't always come to the different member councils, especially. It's not a reflection on our members, but it seems there's significant matters that then go to the CEO and internally to the administration there, and I'm not sure that the information is always forthcoming to the member councils as more or less the funding partners. Is there any way that we can, given that we are joint owners of the site of which the tip is operating on, that we can require information to be given to us about any material impacts on that site, so not just through the MRC process, but more broadly? Given that we own the site, we have the liability of any contamination risk on the site, and shouldn't we be separate? Is there a duty separate to the MRC structure to inform the owners of the site of any material changes in relation to the lease or any operations under the lease?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I will have to take that question on notice and seek some governance advice, but also look at the MRC's constitution and the current lease agreement we have in place and any obligations under that. Might not be able to have that ready for the briefing pack, but I'm happy to, as soon as we have that information, to provide that information to elected members via an email.
Yep. And just following on that, can any consideration be given to if there's any change in the status of the contaminated site, either in how it's being managed? A contaminated site has license conditions, which, you know, although they might be made out to the MRC, but the owner of the land is still the local governments involved. Is there any requirements under the Site Contamination Act or the Environmental Protection Act to inform the relevant landowners of any material changes on that site?
Again, Mr. Mayor, we'll have to take that on notice and provide that.
That's right. Thank you. Any other questions on the Mindarie Regional Council minutes? Thank you. We then move to item 12.7, elected member training and development schedule. Any questions on this? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, if I may, as to the rationale that the law enforcement torch run appears as training and development. Just curious as to why it qualifies under this aspect.
Go to Director Parry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the application was submitted on a conference form, so I took it at its word from those elected members who had made the submission that there was some sort of a professional development component in relation to that particular event.
Deputy Mayor? Okay. In relation to, I've got a question, it's just in relation to elected member training and development broadly. There's a provision in the Code of Conduct which talks about council members participating in training provided by the local government. Is it open to the local government, either as the CEO or the council, to conduct a program of training that all the councillors then would be required to participate in? Director Parry?
Whether there is a requirement from the code, I'm not looking at the particular code provisions in front of me, so I could take that one on notice and provide a response. But the administration, in conjunction with elected members, could conduct a program of training and professional development if elected members were interested in committing to participating in a program of that ilk.
Yep, so it's clause 4D of the Code of Conduct. It says that a council member, committee member or candidate should attend and participate in briefings, workshops and training sessions provided or arranged by the local government in relation to the performance of their role. Is that something we could look about or explore in a further discussion? Because I know we're talking about in the future discussions around how do we structure committee meetings, briefing sessions. I know other local governments have, as part of their meeting structure, a once-a-month training process where they bring in different trainers. Is that something we can consider, or is that possible under the code? Director?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it doesn't necessarily have to be under the code, and as you've specified, that particular clause, given it's should and not will or shall, then it would be optional for council members, committee members to attend that particular training and not held to account under the Code of Conduct. But with regard to a program of training activities, I have been speaking to the previous CEO of the town of Victoria Park about such a program as well. So given that we are discussing council and committee meetings in the near future, it might be opportune to be able to talk about what development opportunities elected members might like in-house to be provided to them.
Yep. Thank you. Maybe that's a discussion we'll have at that point. Yep. Any further questions on item 12.7? No. Thank you. We'll then move to item 12.8, WA Local Government Association AGM. Is there anyone flagging their intent on going to the AGM or wishes to be a proxy delegate? Councillor Harton?
We had a discussion last year about this, about how it's usual practice for the State Councillor and Deputy State Councillor to be the delegates. However, I'm most likely going to be on paternity leave during the conference, so I'm flagging that it's not my intention to nominate, in case I know there is obviously Councillor Count and also Councillor Pizzi, who are the North Zone delegates. They might be next in line if they were interested in putting their hands up. If not, it should probably go down the chain of Walga Zone North delegates, but I myself am not intending to, so I just want to put that on notice. Thank you.
Sure. Councillor Fishwick, thank you.
As a deputy member to the State Council, I'm happy to attend should no one else want to, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. And is there a second person who wishes to be our voting delegate? Councillor Count?
Happy to fill in that role as well. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and I guess we'll see if the other councillors wish to fill the proxies in those cases. And just on that point, is there a meeting, is there a fee for attending the conference that also needs to be filled out for the AGM?
Mr Mayor, there's no fee for attending the annual general meeting itself as a designated delegate. Attending the conference or any other other components of it, there would be a fee that relates to it.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Hutton, do you have any? No? Thank you. Councillor Chester.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it is my habit to attend the display at the conference. I don't think there's any particular fee for that, but I guess I'm just letting you know that I will be attending the display at least.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. If there's no further questions on that item, we'll move to, Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wondering, really quickly, being any attendees, any elected members that attend, is there likely to be any claims for member benefits, as if, for example, staying overnight somewhere or travel or drinks?
Thank you, Councillor. Director Parry.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's a hypothetical question. It depends upon the conference registration that an elected member wishes to nominate for in attendance at that particular conference. I'm sure it would be broken up into attendance at a conference, attendance at a gala dinner. There may be other components of the program that elected members may wish to nominate for, and it all needs to be the elected member entitlements policy needs to be taken into account when making those applications to attend the conference.
Yep. Councillor?
Sorry, I guess my question relates to, is there any components of those events where there is an entitlement for an elected member to claim such things?
Director Parry.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't think the program has been made available yet, so registration for those particular events, that's not the intent of this particular meeting, this particular item. It's rather in relation to the AGM rather than the conference elements itself.
And Director Parry, just a clarification on this, is the AGM part of the conference? I know you can just attend the AGM, but is the AGM part of the conference? Or is it separate?
Mr Mayor, it is a separate component of the conference. So I think if you're attending the conference, you could probably attend the AGM, but the purpose of this item is to have designated delegates attending that AGM and then vote on behalf of the local government for motions that have been put forward on behalf of member local governments.
I think to provide some clarity for your previous answer to your previous questions, Councillor O'Neill, it's up to individual elected members whether they decide to put in claims in relation to attending conferences. In previous years, there have been members of this council which have made claims in relation to accommodation for attending the Walga conference, but it's up to every individual elected member if they seek to make any of that. Councillor Hutton?
So, just for clarity and bringing this back to relevance of the item itself is about the AGM.
Yep.
Usually I attend the AGM only. Mm-hmm. I go to the conference, I go to the AGM meeting, I attend the meeting, I vote, I leave. You can do that without registering for the conference if you are the AGM delegate. So that what the item before us is actually just the 2-hour component, which happens to be part of the conference, but you can attend the AGM on its own, which is what I have done for the past 2 years. So just to clarify that.
I wasn't referring to you, Councillor.
Yeah, no, just clarify.
I appreciate the clarification. Yeah. Any further questions on this item? No, thank you. We then move to item 12.9, and no one sought to discuss the confidential attachments on this one. Any questions on this item? Okay. Councillor Hill.
Yes, thanks to you, Mr Mayor. I believe we all got an email about this, about reviewing the candidates, and could I just seek clarity on any deadline for submission of responses in advance of the council meeting? Thank you.
Go to Director Parry, if there's...
Sorry, Mr Mayor, could you please repeat the question? I found it difficult to hear. Sorry.
Okay, I'm very close to the microphone. So elected members received an email regarding this item and nominated candidates and a request to list suggested candidates for consideration. I presume that's in advance of the council meeting, and I just wondered if there is a deadline that we are required to provide those responses. Thank you.
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the question. Usually, as is with these, similar to the perhaps the independent member for audit and risk and other members, it's usually up to the presiding member, and I haven't spoken to the mayor about it, to perhaps coordinate amongst elected members the shortlisted candidates which might be placed within part 2 of the recommendation, rather than the administration collecting those, because we may not receive nominations from all elected members. It is better for, I think, the presiding member to coordinate, and his office could participate in that.
I guess to build on that answer, I'm willing to coordinate the different responses, so if you can probably try and send them in. We've got 2 weeks before the council meeting, so the Friday before the council meeting is the latest, preferably. What I will do is similar to exactly the same as what we've done in audit and risk. If everyone can nominate who their top 5 choices are, so everyone provide 5 names, I will tally up the ones, and then the ones in which we have multiple people voting forward, we'll go forward with those, and then at the council meeting we'll then have a discussion of people voting for the remaining elements. Councillor Hill.
Yes, thanks for clarification. So the responses are to be submitted to yourself, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on this item? No, thank you. We then move to we've done item 12.10, item 12.11, list of payments. No, thank you. Item 12.12, financial activity statements. Thank you. Item 12.13 we've already done. That then brings us to the confidential session of tonight's agenda. So if we can then close the meeting to the public. Thank you. That then moves us to the reports from committees. Mr. Acting CEO, are there any reports from the committees at this stage?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And reports from the CEO?
Also none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And then urgent business will be dealt with at the ordinary meeting held on the 28th of July. There's 2 motions of which notice has been given, one from Councillor Pizzey, one from Councillor Mercer. Does anyone else wish to raise or flag their intention for a motion for the next meeting? No, or the subsequent? Councillor Count?
Yes, I do. I haven't finished drafting it yet. I'll have that submitted tomorrow, but it's basically around a submission that I'd like to see in the WALGA meeting, at the WALGA AGM. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And anybody else wishing to flag any other notices? I'll probably have 1 or 2 for this meeting as well, but I haven't yet spoken to the officers about them. In that case, that brings us to the end of the meeting, so we close the meeting then at 8:38 p.m. Thank you everyone for attending. And also if you have questions on the items, if you can submit those before the council meeting, just so we can have an orderly and efficient meeting up on the 28th. Thank you.